What is up, everybody? It's JT Sports, and I'm back with you guys with another edition of JT Sports Live. I'm doing this live a little bit earlier than what I expected to. Normally, I want to start doing my live streams around 6:45, but I wanted to do this one a little bit earlier because of the NBA draft that comes on at 7:30 or 7 o'clock. I want to be able to make sure that I'm able to catch it and watch all of it. So that's why I'm doing this live stream a little bit early, but we are going to be covering some of the biggest games being played this weekend. We're going to be talking about the Packers taking on the Colts. We're going to be talking about Tampa Bay taking on the Rams on Monday night. We're going to be talking about Ravens, Titans. We already know how that game went last year in the divisional round. And we are going to be talking about the Raiders and the Chiefs. So before I begin, if you haven't already and you are new to the channel, make sure that you guys hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Upload NFL videos and college football videos daily. Also, make sure that you guys check me out on social media. My Instagram and Twitter is both JT Sports _. You guys can follow me on those and the link down in the description down below. Also, if you don't know, every single video that is uploaded on this channel mostly is available on audio platforms for those of you guys who just like to listen to the audio version. So if you guys are somebody who likes to listen to podcasts while you're at work or while you're on your way to work in the car, check out the JT Sports Podcast, available on all podcasting platforms: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts. Wherever you get your podcast from, the JT Sports Podcast is available. All you have to do is click the link down in the description. It will take you to all of the podcasting platforms, or you can type in the JT Sports Podcast where you listen to your podcast. So let's get into it. So the first game that I want to talk about, we have the Green Bay Packers taking on the Indianapolis Colts on the road in Indianapolis. Now, the Colts have run 3 out of their last 4 games. They have been one of the hottest teams in the NFL. And I think that a lot of people are sleeping on the Indianapolis Colts. You see, the Indianapolis Colts defeated the Tennessee Titans last week on Thursday Night Football, 34-17. Okay? And a large reason why they won that game was because of how well their special teams played. Their special teams played out of this world. They had a blocked punt. And Tennessee has been struggling on the special team side of football for basically the whole entire year and a little bit somewhat last year as well. So Indianapolis was able to take advantage of that. Now, you're facing a Green Bay Packers team that is only, to my surprise, a 2.5-point underdog heading into this game. Now, that surprised me. That the fact that Las Vegas will favor the Colts to win this game. And my question is, why is that? Why is Green Bay the underdog heading into this game? Is it because it's on the road in Indianapolis? I don't really think that's the case. I think the reason why Vegas has the Colts as favorites to win this game is because when you look at the Green Bay Packers and their history, they have not really been all that great over the last couple of seasons when it comes to facing physical football teams. And that's what the Indianapolis Colts are. They're great up front on both sides of football. They have a great offensive line. They have a great defensive line. And Green Bay, when they get matched up against physical football teams, they don't play well. And last week, Green Bay was in a dogfight with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Remind you that the Jacksonville Jaguars haven't won a game since week 1. And a lot of their games haven't really been all that competitive. And they took Green Bay to the wire last week, winning only 24-20. In a game that a lot of people, including me, expected Green Bay to dominate. So is Green Bay going to lose to, once again, another physical team? That is going to be the question. And the Green Bay Packers run defense. Now, a lot of people have had a lot of concerns when it comes to the Green Bay Packers' ability to stop the run. And a large reason for that is because that they have dealt with injuries over the last couple of weeks, but they are now starting to get a little bit healthy. They got Christian Kirksey back, so that should be an added boost as well. So for me, I want to see how the run defense is going to fare against the Indianapolis Colts, a team that likes to run the ball, but they haven't really had the ability to run the football over the last couple of weeks, simply because they don't really need to, because of Phillip Rivers and how he's played over the last couple of weeks. Now, against the Jacksonville Jaguars, James Robinson had a field day against his Green Bay Packers defense. He had 109 rushing yards on 22 carries and was averaging 4.7 yards per carry. That concerns me, because Indianapolis, they are a team that likes to run the football to win the game, and they only run the football really when the passing game isn't working. Now, over the last couple of weeks, the passing game has done pretty good, but they haven't really had to put that much of a focal point on running the football because simply, if it ain't broke, no fix it. If you don't need to run the football and you can just beat teams by throwing the football, then go ahead and do it. But against Indianapolis, I think that they're going to have to be a little bit more balanced and they're going to have to play a little bit better football on offense than what they had over the last couple of weeks, which they haven't been bad off on the offense side of football. They had a pretty good performance against Tennessee. Against Baltimore, okay, their offense kind of stuttered out in the second half. But overall, if the Colts are able to have a successful day running the football as well, I think that's going to open up this offense. Now, my biggest thing when it comes to Indianapolis is always Phillip Rivers. Now, I know Phillip Rivers has played pretty decent, but I still don't trust him. And I don't care what Indianapolis Colts fans try to do down in the comment section. I don't care if you try to preach to me. You can preach to the choir all you want to. At the end of the day, if the Colts throw the ball more than 30 times to win the game, they're at a disadvantage. Because with Phillip Rivers, can you trust him to throw the ball 30 times without turning the football over? Now, I know he's done pretty well in terms of limiting the turnovers over the last couple of games, but I can only have so much faith in Phillip Rivers. Eventually, people say somebody's true colors eventually reveal themselves. And Phillip Rivers is a turnover-prone quarterback. That's just what he is. Now, even though he has limited his turnovers over the last couple of weeks, he still has a tendency to turn the football over. So eventually, is this going to be the game that Phillip Rivers ends up costing the Colts and turns the football over? You also have to look at the Colts' lack of depth at the wide receiver position. They only have T.Y. Hilton and rookie wide receiver Michael Pittman, who has came on over the last couple of weeks. Aside from that, there hasn't really been a lot of production at the wide receiver position for the Colts. As a matter of fact, their running backs have also been a large part of the passing game as well. So for Green Bay, if you're going to win this game, you're going to have to get pressure on Phillip Rivers, force him to throw the football, force Indianapolis to abandon the run game to the point that they have to throw the football against their defense to win. All right? Then on Green Bay's side, okay, their offense led by Aaron Rodgers, who I feel like should be in the MVP discussion. A lot of people aren't talking about Aaron Rodgers in the MVP discussion, but he has played lights out this year. How is he going to fare against this Indianapolis Colts defense? Remind you, the last time the Packers faced a great defense, a top 10 defense, they got smacked by the Buccaneers. So how's this Green Bay Packers offense going to look the next go around against a really good defense in the Indianapolis Colts? Remind you that the Colts defense has been really good. They're top 10 at almost every single statistically on the defense side of the football. So you're looking at the Indianapolis Colts defense that's pretty good against the run. They're good against the pass. They're really good up front. So I want to see how this Packers offense is going to match up and how they're going to play against this really stout Indianapolis Colts defense. Now, for this game, this is a playoff atmosphere. This game is going to have a playoff feel to it. For those of you guys who only like to watch the NFL around playoff time, well, you have an early playoff matchup right here, right now, because there are going to be a lot of playoff implications in this game. Okay, for the Indianapolis Colts, they are currently the number one team in the AFC South. They currently control their own destiny in the AFC South because they defeated the Tennessee Titans last week on Thursday Night Football. Well, they're going to have to play the Indianapolis Colts are going to have to face Tennessee again in the next couple of weeks, and that game is much likely going to decide who controls the AFC South for the rest of the season. Now, if Indianapolis loses this game, then this is going to be big because they can go from having control of the AFC South to now Tennessee regaining control of the AFC South if Tennessee is able to defeat the Baltimore Ravens. Now, if the Indianapolis Colts lose and Tennessee wins, then they can kind of tie back up with the Colts or regain control of the AFC South because the Colts will be 6-4, and if the Titans beat the Ravens, they will move to 7-3 on the year. So they'll have one game up on the Indianapolis Colts, making that next upcoming matchup in the second time the Colts meet the Titans much more important. So for the Packers, you are trying to clinch that number one seed in the NFC. For those of you guys who don't know already, this is a different playoff format that we've seen this year from the past. Okay, in the past it was 6 teams, now it's 7 teams. And with 7 teams being in the playoffs this year, only one team from each conference gets a first round bye. So for Green Bay, that first round bye is what they're trying to compete with. And right now they're going head to head the New Orleans Saints in that department, which you like your chances because the New Orleans Saints just lost Drew Brees, which Drew Brees is going to be out for the next 3 to 4 weeks. So we don't really know how the New Orleans Saints are going to hold up if they are going to be able to win out with my guy Jameis Winston. So for the Colts and the Packers, what is going to be the biggest stat that matters in this game? I think the red zone. The red zone is going to be really important because for Indianapolis, they haven't really been all that great once they get inside the 20. They kick field goals a lot of the time once they get inside the red zone. They have the 25th, the worst red zone offense in the NFL. They only score touchdowns in the red zone 55.88% of the time. Now, you got the Green Bay Packers red zone defense that isn't all that great themselves. Their defense is 23rd in red zone scoring percentage. There are a lot of teams that score red zone touchdowns 67% of the time. So I want to see who's going to win because I think this is going to be a game that is going to be somewhat moderate scoring. I'm not expecting a lot of points to be scored in this game, but I'm also not expecting a lot of teams to put up a lot of points on each other in this game. I think this would be a game that somewhere in between the 20s. I don't really see this game going over 30 points. So you look at Aaron Rodgers playing like an MVP candidate, 2,578 passing yards, 26 touchdowns, completing 67.8% of his passes. How is he going to play against his Indianapolis Colts defense? Now, the Colts defense is 4th in the NFL in points per game allowing 19.7 points per game. They're number 1 in the NFL, giving up the least amount of yards per game with 290.4, and they're 2nd against the pass, allowing 198.7 passing yards per game. And they are 3rd in the NFL in rushing yards per game allowed with 91. So for the Colts, I'm really looking forward to see how this defense matches up against Aaron Rodgers. I'm really excited about this game. Now, I know this game may not be topping a lot of people's charts of games to watch this weekend, but I'm going to be watching this game. This is going to be a primetime game, and Indianapolis last week, after they defeated the Tennessee Titans on Thursday Night Football, said, we need more primetime games. We deserve them. Well, Indianapolis, you got your wish. So America's going to be watching. I'm going to be watching. A lot of people are going to be watching to see just how good of a team you really are. And I think the Indianapolis Colts are a lot better team than what a lot of people may give them credit for. Now, they've been pretty up. They started the season out a little bit rough, but they have been pretty good over the last month. So far in November, they've been pretty good. And in October, they dominated that month of October. So I'm really excited about this game. The team I'm going to take to win this game, I'm taking the Packers. I was really close to taking the Indianapolis Colts to win this game because of how great this defense is. But I think the Green Bay Packers are going to be able to get this win because I think they're going to have a couple of guys coming back from injury. Jair Alexander is listed as questionable, but a lot of people are really confident about him being able to suit up and play in this game. Kevin King, he should be able to go in this game. So I'm really excited about this game. I think the Packers win this one. 24-20 is my final score prediction in this game. And I'm rolling with the Green Bay Packers. Go Pack Go to beat the Indianapolis Colts on the road and move to 8-2 on the year. So the next game that we have to talk about the Sunday night matchup and the rematch between the Las Vegas Raiders and the Kansas City Chiefs. So the last time these two teams played, the Las Vegas Raiders pulled off the upset, defeating Kansas City 40-32. Now, for the Raiders, they have some concerns on the defense side of football. And they have 10 guys on this team that are listed in that CVID protocol. Can't really say the complete terminology of it because YouTube starts tripping. But for the Las Vegas Raiders, in terms of how they have handled the CVID protocols and things like that, the NFL has not been really good to them. Every time it seems like they get players placed in the COVID-19 protocol, they end up not playing. I remember it was one game against Tampa Bay that they went into that game, I believe, with basically a whole bunch of offensive linemen who were backups who were starting in that game against Tampa Bay, which they ultimately ended up losing. So for Las Vegas, if you're a Raiders fan, you're hoping that at least some of these players that are currently in that CVID protocol are going to be able to play in this game. And COVID-19 has not been great to anybody. But it most definitely hasn't been great to the Las Vegas Raiders. If there was a team that has been hit harder this season in terms of COVID-19, it probably would have to be the Las Vegas Raiders. So for the Las Vegas Raiders, they are currently going to be without 10 defensive players who've been put in the COVID-19 protocol. Don't really know if those guys are going to be able to play. They do have the ability to play if they have 5 straight days of negative testing that they don't test positive. Then they'll be able to play Sunday. But based on what has happened with the Las Vegas Raiders in the past in terms of how COVID-19 has affected them, not really a lot of confidence in that department. So you look at how this game went last time they played. The Raiders executed and beat the Kansas City Chiefs the proper way you're supposed to beat the Chiefs. The first thing the Raiders did was they got after Patrick Mahomes for their entire game. They had 3 sacks. Okay, they possibly could have more, but you know, Patrick Mahomes did what Patrick Mahomes does the most. He makes things happen out of nothing. So Las Vegas got a lot of pressure on Kansas City in that last matchup. How is Kansas City's offensive line going to better prepare this go around than what they did last time? That's going to be the question. Another thing that the Raiders did well in their first matchup against Kansas City was they dominated time possession. They held the ball for 35 minutes and 48 seconds to Kansas City only having the ball for 24 minutes and 42 seconds. That's big because the key to beating Kansas City is being able to keep Patrick Mahomes and that Chiefs offense off the field, and the Las Vegas Raiders were able to do that. Now they're going to be able to replicate that performance this game, and maybe a little bit more tougher because Kansas City's defense should be a little bit more prepared than what they did last time. Then on top of that, they got torched by Henry Ruggs. Henry Ruggs didn't really catch a lot of passes in this game, but the few passes that he did, he had 118 receiving yards. He had a big 72-yard reception as well. So this Chiefs secondary may have had their worst performance of the year against the Las Vegas Raiders the last time they played. So how's this Kansas City Chiefs secondary going to bounce back in the second matchup against the Las Vegas Raiders? Now, Derek Carr had a great game. He was 22 of 31 for 347 pass yards, 3 touchdowns, only threw 1 interception. So that's how that game went the last go around. And when you look at the Raiders, I think that the Las Vegas Raiders are the most underrated team in the NFL so far this season. Everybody's talking about the Indianapolis Colts and the Miami Dolphins, and rightfully so. But you have to talk about the Las Vegas Raiders because right now the Las Vegas Raiders are in a really good spot. If they win this game, they'll be 1 game back of trying to take over that AFC West division. And they could position themselves to the point that if they're able to win this division some way, somehow, then they could end up having a wild card home game when the NFL playoffs begin. So this is a really big game for the Las Vegas Raiders because think about it. What if the Raiders beat the Chiefs twice? What is going to be the narrative? All right, maybe the Las Vegas Raiders, if they beat the Chiefs twice, just has the Kansas City Chiefs number. It is possible. You can still be a good team, but lose to a team that you're not expected to lose to because that team may have your number. Look at Tampa Bay Buccaneers, for example. They have lost to the New Orleans Saints twice this year, but we still believe that Tampa Bay is a Super Bowl favorite. We still believe that they are a Super Bowl contender. We still believe that they're one of the best teams in the NFL. It's just that the Saints just has the number on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Is that going to be the same case for the Las Vegas Raiders in terms of deciding if they want to be able to get this victory against Kansas City? So the Raiders are a really underrated team. And Derek Carr is quietly having a great season. Think about it. Think about what the narrative was about Derek Carr before the season began. In the offseason, it was all this speculation about Derek Carr and his future as the future quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders. It was, John Gruden is always looking to replace Derek Carr. Derek Carr and John Gruden haven't really got along. Marcus Mariota is going to end up starting over Derek Carr. Derek Carr doesn't have the locker room on his side. Like, think about all of the narratives that were placed on Derek Carr in terms of his future as the future quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders. A lot of people expected Derek Carr to struggle this season for him to get replaced by Marcus Mariota, who they brought in free agency and paid him a boatload of money to be their backup. Well, Derek Carr has silenced all critics, and he has proved to everybody that he is going to be the franchise quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders for the next few years to come, and that he shouldn't be going anywhere. 2,156 passing yards on the year, 16 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. He has one of the best touchdown-to-interception ratios in the NFL. He has completed 69% of his passes. And if Derek Carr is able to get the win over the Kansas City Chiefs for the second go-around, shouldn't you mention him in that conversation for Comeback Player of the Year? Because isn't Comeback Player of the Year supposed to be for players that had a down year due to injuries or a down performance? I think you have to mention him in that breath because he's been really good. And if he's able to elevate this Las Vegas Raiders team to another win against Kansas City, that will make him 2-0 against Kansas City on the year. I think that he will be in that discussion for Comeback Player of the Year when you look at how the season went last year. So, despite the Las Vegas Raiders winning the last matchup 40-32, Vegas has the Chiefs as a touchdown favorite heading into this game. They're favored to win this game by 7 points. And the Chiefs, ever since they lost to the Raiders, they have been highly motivated. You can make the argument and say that the best thing that happened to the Chiefs was that loss to the Las Vegas Raiders, because the Chiefs, they were feeling confident about themselves. They got humbled in that loss to the Las Vegas Raiders, and ever since, they've been on the tear ever since. Now, the last time we saw the Chiefs play, they were in a really close game with the Carolina Panthers, which they almost lost that game, but they were able to pull out the victory in the fourth quarter. Now, you look at the Raiders, they took care of business last week when they defeated the Denver Broncos 37-12. The game wasn't even close. And the Raiders defense has came a long way compared to what it has been the last couple of years. This probably is the best defense that the Las Vegas Raiders have had since ever. I can't remember the last time the Raiders had even an average defense at best, and that's what this defense is, average. And this defense does have the potential to be a lot better because of how good this defensive line is. You also got to think about Jeff Heath. Jeff Heath, the safety for the Las Vegas Raiders, had a really good game last week. He had an interception, a couple of pass deflections. He was really good for the Las Vegas Raiders, and they're going to need him in the secondary to step up if they're going to hope to beat the Kansas City Chiefs and try to mop the floor in the season series with Kansas City. And there are playoff implications at stake for Kansas City. If they lose this game, they're not really in jeopardy of not making it to the playoffs. But for the Raiders, they have a little bit more at stake, because you look at Cleveland, you look at Baltimore, you look at Tennessee, you look at Indianapolis, you're neck and neck with all of those teams. So if you lose this game, you could easily find yourself on the outside looking in of the playoffs if you are the Las Vegas Raiders. So the team I'm going to take to win this game, I'm taking Kansas City to get the victory. I can see the Raiders winning this game, but I really can't see the Kansas City Chiefs losing to the Las Vegas Raiders 2 times in 1 year. Like, I just think that the Kansas City Chiefs are just too talented of a team to lose to the Las Vegas Raiders twice. Now, I'm not saying that the Raiders are a bad team or anything like that. I'm just saying that for a team to beat Kansas City 2 times in 1 year, you have to be a really, really good team. And I don't think the Raiders are that good that they're going to be able to beat Kansas City twice. I think the Chiefs and Andy Reid are going to come out here. They're going to make adjustments. And remember, this is a Kansas City Chiefs team that was sort of going through the motions because they didn't really have a lot of competition. Every time somebody questions their ability as a Super Bowl contender or their ability to win games against, top teams, they always come out and they never disappoint. Look what happened when they played the Baltimore Ravens on Monday night. They dominated that game. Although that game was close on the box score, if you go and watch that game was way more one-sided in the Chiefs' favor than it was if you actually saw the score. So I'm taking Kansas City to get the victory. I think they win this game 31-21 is my final score prediction in this game. I'm taking the Kansas City Chiefs to get the victory. All right, so moving on. This is a game that I'm really excited about as well. We have the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Tennessee Titans. Now, the Titans are heading into this game 6-3. As well as the Baltimore Ravens. And remember what happened last time these two teams matched up against each other in the playoffs. Let's set the stage. So the Ravens were coming off a first-round bye. You had the MVP Lamar Jackson. You were having this game in divisional round at home, which a lot of people expected the Baltimore Ravens to end up facing the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. Then you had King Henry and Ryan Tannehill coming to town and just completely pulled off one of the biggest upsets in NFL playoff history against Baltimore. So I'm pretty sure Baltimore is highly motivated to get their revenge on Tennessee in this game. Now you look at Tennessee. They lost to the Indianapolis Colts on Thursday Night Football 34-17. And a large reason why they lost to the Colts was because of special teams. And this special teams going to cost the Tennessee Titans another game. Okay? And special teams isn't the be-all or whatever when it comes to being a Super Bowl contender or not. Like, you can be average on special teams and still win a Super Bowl. Like, you don't have to be great on special teams. But when you're bad the way Tennessee is on special teams, that's when it can start costing you games. And special teams, you see, here's the thing about special teams. Nobody talks about special teams until it costs you games. Okay? And you look at Steven Gostkowski. In a game like this, he is going to be really important. Because I'm not expecting Tennessee to score a touchdown every single time they touch the ball. So if Steven Gostkowski is missing field goals and leaving points off the board, that's going to be a really big for Tennessee. Okay, because in the game against Baltimore, this is going to be a tightly contested game. This is a playoff game, ladies and gentlemen. As a matter of fact, this may be the most important game when it comes to determining playoff seeding this season. All right? Now, when you look at the Ravens, if the Ravens lose this game, they drop to 6-4, and they can easily find themselves on the outside looking in of the playoffs after this week if they lose to Tennessee. And Tennessee is already on the outside looking in of the playoffs. They're 6-3 as well. And if they lose this game, they're going to drop to 6-4. And if Indianapolis is able to beat Green Bay, then I believe that the Indianapolis Colts are going to have like a maybe 2-game advantage on Tennessee if they're able to defeat Tennessee again when they match up the second go around in the next couple of weeks. So for Tennessee, they desperately need to win this game if they want to be able to keep up with the Indianapolis Colts, because you don't want to end up facing the Colts, and then if you lose that game, you end up getting swept by the Colts, then you're 2 games back of the division, and then you make your road to the playoffs even harder. So for the Ravens, their run defense has struggled with injuries due to Brandon Williams and Calais Campbell both being injured. Both those guys are listed as questionable heading into this matchup. Now, for Tennessee, we know what Tennessee wants to do. They want to throw the football once they get the run game going. A big part of why Ryan Tannehill is so efficient in the Tennessee Titans offense is because how good he is in play action situations. So if Tennessee is able to come on in this game and run the football the way they did in the divisional round against Baltimore last year, they're going to have a really good chance winning this game. And remind you that this is a Baltimore Ravens offense that, ladies and gentlemen, nothing is coming easy. They are struggling. You saw what happened last week against the New England Patriots. They lost 23-17. And their offense hasn't really been the same offense we are accustomed to seeing out of Baltimore ever since last year when Lamar Jackson won NFL MVP. Now, a lot of people like to try to blame the Baltimore Ravens' offensive struggles on Lamar Jackson. I don't think that's fair. I don't think that Lamar Jackson is the problem with the Baltimore Ravens. Now, could Lamar Jackson play better? Yes, he can. Has Lamar Jackson costed Baltimore a couple of games? Yes, he has. Against Pittsburgh, the Ravens lost that game because of his turnovers. All right? But aside from that Pittsburgh game, Lamar Jackson has played pretty well. So the fact that people keep trying to make it seem like Lamar Jackson is all of the problem in Baltimore, I don't really like that. All right? Now, he can play better. But aside from that game against Pittsburgh, he's played pretty solid. I think that the Ravens have bigger problems to worry about offensively than Lamar Jackson. First of all, I'm looking at offensive coordinator Greg Roman. What is going to be the game plan heading into this game? Because against New England, you struggled. Now, albeit it was because of the weather, but that rain game, you got outgained by New England last week. New England ran the football at will. Damian Harris, Cam Newton, the Ravens had no answer. And I'm looking at a Ravens team that is once again facing another team that is good on the line of scrimmage. They're good up front on both sides of the football. On the defensive line, led by defensive tackle Jeffrey Simmons, who should be All-Pro. If he doesn't make it to the Pro Bowl this year, shame on you, Tennessee Titans fans. If Jeffrey Simmons does not make it to the Pro Bowl this year, Tennessee Titans fans should be ashamed of themselves. Absolutely ashamed. So, Tennessee is good up front on the defensive line. And you're looking at a defensive line that's going to be facing a beat down offensive line for Baltimore. Baltimore has had several injuries to the offensive line, and last week we saw that become a problem. And there were a lot of Ravens fans that were vocal about their center last week. So, once again, you have the Ravens, who their offensive line is getting beat down. They're going to be facing another good defensive line, and Tennessee, and a team that is really good in the interior, especially when it comes to being able to stop the run. Now, here's where the question lies. Baltimore's passing attack has struggled this year. They have one of the worst passing attacks in the NFL, not because Lamar Jackson is a bad quarterback, but simply because Baltimore just doesn't have enough weapons to have a sufficient offensive attack. Your best wide receiver is Marquise Brown. He hasn't really been a factor in this offense over the last 2-3 weeks. So you got to get him involved against a Tennessee Titans secondary that is shaky. This is a Tennessee Titans pass defense that, I remind you, is one of the worst in the NFL when it comes to getting pressure on third down. Joe Burrow was 10 of 15 on third down when they played Cincinnati a couple of weeks ago, and Cincinnati allowed no sacks. So that should tell you everything you need to know about the Tennessee Titans pass rush. So for Baltimore, if you're a Ravens fan, you feel pretty confident about your ability to run the football and throw the football on Tennessee's defense. So you feel pretty confident in your ability to have a balanced game on offense. And Baltimore could have one of their best games offensively in this game that we've seen out of this offense for their entire season when they have faced a team with a record of above 500. Now, for the Tennessee Titans, I want to see these wide receivers matched up against these corners for Baltimore. Now, Baltimore has one of the best secondaries in the NFL. They have one of the best cornerback tandems in the NFL with Marcus Peters and Marlon Humphrey. Now, we don't really know about the status of Jimmy Smith. He's listed as questionable as well. I saw him on the injury report. But if he's able to go in this game, you're going to have A.J. Brown, who was a non-factor last week against Indianapolis, and Corey Davis. I want to see how this wide receiver position is going to do against this Baltimore Ravens secondary. That's where the biggest matchup, in my opinion, lies. So, for the team that's going to win this game, it's going to be the team that can win up front. Can Baltimore win up front? Baltimore's offensive line struggled last week against New England. New England is a physical football team. And I'm looking at that Ravens offensive line right now, and I don't really have a lot of confidence in it. Let's be honest. Do a lot of you Ravens fans watching this have confidence in your offensive line? I don't really think so. Look at the injuries. Look at how you performed last week against New England. New England beat you down up front. So for Baltimore, that offensive line is going to be a big question heading into this game. And like I said, there is a lot of things in terms of playoff positioning that is on the line for the Baltimore Ravens. You're already 3 games back of Pittsburgh. Okay, Pittsburgh plays the Jacksonville Jaguars, which is pretty much a gimme if they go out there and they execute how they should. So Baltimore loses this game, not only are they going to be 4 games back of Pittsburgh for trying to win the AFC North, if they lose this game, you can basically kiss the AFC North divisional title for Baltimore goodbye. You might as well go ahead and give it to the Pittsburgh Steelers. But also, they could easily be on the outside looking in of the playoffs like I mentioned earlier. They currently have the 7th seed right now. If the NFL playoffs were to begin today, the Ravens will currently have the 7th seed in the NFL right now. So for Tennessee, they're trying to get back into the playoff hunt right now because they're on the outside looking in. So there are a lot of playoff implications going into this game. Now, whoever loses this game, they're not going to be out of the playoffs. They're not going to be eliminated or anything like that. But every game matters, especially when you get to this point of the NFL season, mid-November, about to enter Thanksgiving week. This is where everything's crucial. This is where one win or one loss can be the difference between you making it to the playoffs and you not making it to the playoffs. So the team I'm going to take to win this game, I'm taking the Ravens to get this victory. Tennessee, they're a pretty good team, but I think Baltimore is going to be able to bounce back after they had that bad taste in their mouth after they got smacked in one of the biggest upsets of the year against New England. I don't trust Tennessee's defense in this game. Okay, and I know Baltimore's offense has kind of struggled over the last couple of weeks, but Tennessee's defense, remind you, they can't get off the field on third down, they can't get after the quarterback, and their pass defense is suspect. So for Baltimore, if you're a Ravens fan, you have to be feeling pretty good about your offense being able to come on here and have a pretty good performance. And I think the Ravens could be in for their best performance offensively over basically the whole entire season. So give me Baltimore to win. I'm taking Baltimore to win. 21-17 is my final score prediction in this game. I'm taking the Ravens. So let's move on to the last game that we have to talk about on this live stream, which is the LA Rams taking on the Buccaneers on Monday Night Football. Now, this is a really big game in the NFC, because we are going to see just how good the Buccaneers are. Because what a lot of people are talking about is how good of a defense the LA Rams have. The LA Rams have the second best defense in the NFL from a talent standpoint and from an execution standpoint behind the Pittsburgh Steelers. Their secondary has been great. You saw their secondary did to Russell Wilson in Seattle last week. DK Metcalf got shut down by Jalen Ramsey. Russell Wilson threw multiple interceptions. He turned the ball over 3 times against the LA Rams defense. And for the Rams, okay, are you going to be able to win on the road? The Rams have struggled on the road this year. They are 2-3 on the road. All 3 of their losses have came on the road. And you're facing a Buccaneers team that right now has been looking pretty good ever since they got dominated by the New Orleans Saints. And remind you, if you just were able to ignore the New Orleans Saints game, you would think that the Buccaneers are one of the best teams, if not the best team in the NFC, because aside from that New Orleans Saints game, the Buccaneers were handling business. Remind you that this is the same Buccaneers team that dominated Green Bay before they got blown out by New Orleans. So the Buccaneers are currently 7-3 right now. And they are a 4-point favorite heading into this game. Okay, now the Rams defense has been great, but their offense has been inconsistent at times. And a big part of their inconsistency on offense is because of Jared Goff. Jared Goff on the road has been great. You saw what happened last time when they faced the Miami Dolphins. They got train wrecked. They had several turnovers. They got dominated on the special team side of the football. They couldn't really get anything going. They lost on the road against the Buffalo Bills early on in the season, 35-32. And they lost to the 49ers a couple of weeks ago on Sunday Night Football, 24-16, a team that basically has all their best players currently in a hospital room right now. So for the Rams, are you going to be able to win this game on the road, a place that you have struggled all season to do? And for the Rams, their defense, like I mentioned, is really good. And this defense can give the Buccaneers a lot of problems. And do you know what this game reminds me of? This game reminds me of when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers faced the Chicago Bears on Thursday Night Football a couple of weeks ago. Now, everybody was expecting the Buccaneers to beat the Chicago Bears. But the reason why Chicago won that game was because they were able to get constant and consistent pressure on Tom Brady. And we already know one of the blueprints to beating Tom Brady is to get pressure on him. Get in his face, get sacks, force him to get the ball out quick. That is the blueprint to defeating the Buccaneers and Tom Brady. Now, the Buccaneers off the line is really good from a standpoint of stats, but they haven't really faced a lot of great defensive lines this year. When they do, they have struggled. When you look at what they did against the Saints, they struggled in that game. The Saints dominated them up front. They lost. When they played the Chicago Bears, what do? They dominated Chicago up front. Well, they dominated Tampa Bay up front, and Chicago won. So for the Buccaneers, how is this offensive line going to perform against the LA Rams? LA Rams defensive line that had a guy, Leonard Floyd, who had 3 sacks alone against Seattle. 3 sacks by himself. I'm not making that up, ladies and gentlemen. Leonard Floyd had 3 sacks simply by himself against the Seattle Seahawks last week. Okay, so you look at the Rams, they are second in the NFL in sacks per game. And I'm looking at the Buccaneers offensive line that has played pretty well this season. But when they have been matched up against teams that have good talent up front and depth on the defensive line, they have struggled. So another thing is going to be, how is this Buccaneers wide receiving core going to do against this LA Rams secondary? That's going to be the biggest matchup in this game. Now, we saw what Jalen Ramsey did to DK Metcalf last week. DK Metcalf is top 5 in the NFL in receiving yards this year, and he got shut down. He was irrelevant. He was a non-factor. And for somebody to shut down Seattle the way they did offensively is really impressive. So you got to look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Even though they have the best wide receiving core in the NFL, without a doubt, AB, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. So I want to see how this Rams secondary looks against the Buccaneers this week. Now, for Ronald Jones, he is coming off a career game against the Carolina Panthers last week. Last week, he had 192 rushing yards for a touchdown, and he had a 98-yard NFL touchdown that is one of the longest runs, and not the longest touchdown run in NFL history. So for Ronald Jones and the Buccaneers, I think the running game is going to be really big because I don't think the Buccaneers win this game if Tom Brady has to throw the ball 35 times to win. And the reason why I say that is because you look at this Buccaneers off the line, how are they going to hold up? How is Tristan Wirfs going to hold up? Because the last time the Buccaneers faced a great defensive line, they struggled. And they have struggled against teams that are great on the defensive line all this year. So you're facing LA Rams team that, once again, is really good up front. How's the offensive line going to play? Now, the Rams offense versus the Buccaneers defense is going to be another matchup because you have 2 young cornerbacks in Jamal Dean and Carlton Davis who have been pretty good All right, and the Buccaneers have a really good defense in their own right. Now, their defense is pretty good. Their defense is just as good as the Rams' defense. Now, the Buccaneers have great linebackers. You got Devin White, Levante David, who I think Levante David is being a little bit overlooked in terms of how good he is. I think he should be in discussion for a Defensive Player of the Year this year. You got rookie Antoine Winfield. So you also got one of the best defensive lines in the NFL as well. The Rams are one of the best teams in the NFL when it comes to running the football. And the Buccaneers are one of the best teams in the NFL when it comes to their ability to stop the run. And you look at the LA Rams, if they're not able to run the football in this game, then you're going to have to rely on Jared Goff to get the victory for you, which, you know, Jared Goff is capable of carrying your team to a victory, but he's been really inconsistent. So what Jared Goff, if you're the LA Rams, you're Sean McVay, are you going to get? Are you going to get the Jared Goff that you saw a couple of weeks against Miami? Or are you going to get the Jared Goff that looks like he deserves to make the money that he's making right now, one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL? Now, you got Cooper Kupp, you got Robert Woods, Carlton Davis, Jamal Dean. This is a really impressive matchup that you guys got to watch. But also take note of this. The LA Rams lost their best offensive lineman last week, Andrew Whitworth, who suffered an MCL injury. He is most likely done for the rest of the year. So you look at Tampa Bay's defensive line and how good they have been, and you look at the injury that the Rams just suffered last week, losing their best offensive lineman out for pretty much the rest of the season. That's going to be pretty big. That's going to be really big. So how's this LA Rams offense going to perform against this Tampa Bay Buccaneers defensive line? So this is going to be a really good game. Okay? And there's a lot at stake. You got the LA Rams who are still trying to keep up with that NFC West division. Whoever wins that Thursday night matchup between Arizona and Seattle is going to take over number one in that AFC West division. And you're going to have the Rams who are still looking to kind of try to win that division themselves. So if they win this game, they'll be 7-3, and they'll either be tied with the Seattle Seahawks or the Arizona Cardinals for the division lead. So this is a big game for the LA Rams. And also, think about this. If the LA Rams win this game, they're going to be in discussion for that number one overall seed in the NFC West as well. Now, for Tampa Bay, okay, you win this game, you move to 8-3, and you position yourself still to remain in that discussion for that number one overall seed as well. So this is going to be a really good game. I think both these two teams are pretty evenly matched in terms of their strengths and weaknesses. For the LA Rams, their offensive line may be a little bit of a question, losing one of their best offensive linemen. And for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they have struggled against teams that have really good defensive lines like the Rams do. You have Aaron Donald, the best defensive tackle in football. You got Leonard Floyd, who's also having a really good year as well. How's this Buccaneers offensive line going to handle? All right. How is this secondary going to perform against this Rams wide receiving core? How is the Rams secondary going to perform against this wide receiving core for the Buccaneers? And most importantly, how is Tom Brady going to perform in this game? All right. So the team I'm going to take to win this game, this is tough. I'm going to have to take the Bucs. I think the Buccaneers are going to be able to win this game. The reason why is because although I like the Rams defense, I don't know how much I trust their offense. Their offense has been really inconsistent, and Tampa Bay's offense has been pretty consistent for the most part this year, aside from a couple of down performances. So I'm going to have to take the Buccaneers to win this game 24-20 is my final score prediction in this game. I think this game is going to be really close. I think it can go either way. But I am going to take the Buccaneers to win this game. I'm excited for this game. This game is going to be on Monday Night Football. I think that this is a game that may be the best Monday Night Football game we've seen all this season. So this is it for this episode of JT Sports Live. Make sure that if you guys are new to the channel that you guys go ahead, like the video, and subscribe to the channel for more NFL videos and college football videos as well. And I'm going to start live streaming 6:45 p.m. Eastern time almost every single week, every single day of the week, besides Thursday. Because Thursday Night Football comes around. Now, once Thursday Night Football stops, then I'll go back to live streaming every single day at the same time, 6:45 p.m. But I started this live stream a little bit earlier than what I wanted to, was because the NBA draft comes on in a couple of minutes. and I wanted to be able to watch it. So that's why I started just watching a little bit earlier. So for those of you guys who are new, make sure that you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel. Also make sure to follow me on my social media pages. My Instagram and Twitter is both JT_Sports. You can follow me. Link to those are down in the description down below. Also, make sure that you check out the JT Sports Podcast, available on all podcasting platforms. Every single video that's uploaded on the channel is also available on podcast format as well. And make sure you guys take care. And thanks for